Hi, I'm Katie Hacker, and we're taking an excursion to new places today on Beads, Baubles, and Jewels, here with Lindsay Burke. Welcome, Lindsay.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Glad you're here.
Thanks.
This is a beautiful project.
Thank you, I like it a lot. It reminds me of going to the beach growing up and stuff all the time, so you're able to kind of capture that feeling in the pendant.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you can do it all. Really, so much of it is the resin itself and what happens when you add color.
Yeah.
And then you can create any design you want.
Yeah, exactly. So we're using the resin, we're gonna add some color and then create a little swirl wave look.
Okay.
So let me show you how to get started with that. First of all, I've got my bezel here, and this is an open back bezel. So I wanna first prep it, and I use just either rubbing alcohol, a Q-tip, or these handy little alcohol wipes that you can get in your first aid kit.
Okay.
And then you're wanting to just wipe out the middle. So you're getting rid of any residue or anything that could hinder the resin itself. And then, since it's an open back, we need to seal the backing so the resin doesn't seep through. So,
Which I think is so cool because it gives you that transparency that you can't get when you do have a back. So this is special when you want something that you can see all the way through.
It works really well in earrings because then you get the light coming through it too.
Oh, right, good idea.
So I used just a little bit of packing tape. I've got some already cut over here. And you're just gonna stick your bezel right down on top. And then being careful not to touch the tape in the middle because you don't want your fingerprint now in the resin for all eternity. You wanna kind of burnish that bezel down so it's really seated on there.
Okay.
And then one little trick that we have is to put a little business card or something underneath the bezel, so then you can move it around easy. So the tape's not sticking to your fingers when you try to move it again. So next I'm gonna set that aside and I'm gonna prepare the resin. And this resin is done in a 2-part mix and they're done equal parts. So we've got part A and then part B. So I'm gonna take just a mixing cup here and we're gonna start with part A. And you want to pour equal parts, like I said. And so usually you want to get down really close to it so you can watch, just like measuring for your liquids for baking and stuff in home ec. So you're just going to pour, and I'm going to go ahead and pour some in here. So you can see the first one's nice and thick. And you don't want to go past the line. You want to determine, of course, how much you're going to need. For this project, I like to prepare several bezels all at once normally, so then I don't have any resin waste later.
That's a good idea. So you can be prepared. And it's kind of a guessing game, how much
you're gonna need. So the more bezels I have prepared, the better. And then I have a baby wipe, and I just wipe off the top. That's a really good tip to not get this all gooey.
Right. You don't want it to glue the cap onto the bottle.
And then you're gonna take part B and pour the same amount in. And then really just making sure to not over pour with either part here.
Okay.
Okay. And you can see that the second part has a slight yellow tinge. The first part has a slight blue tinge, but once you start mixing, it's going to go clear, turn clear. So I'm gonna use a stir stick. You wanna start a timer and mix this for a good solid 2 minutes.
All right.
And then you're just gonna slowly mix it, kind of folding it in, going back to that baking analogy, where you fold in your ingredients here.
Right here in the kitchen,
and you can see that it's getting milky. And after a while, it'll turn a nice clear.
Okay, and is that, I mean, I know you're going by time, but can you kind of tell when it's ready by the transparency?
The transparency, and then it also feels a little different.
Okay.
The thickness of it changes just a little bit. So once that's all mixed, I'm actually gonna go ahead and switch this out over here because I've got some mixed here. So I've got some mixed and you can see how much clearer it is.
Yeah.
And then to create that wave effect, I wanna tint some of my resin. So I'm gonna pour just a little bit into each of these 3 cups. I'm gonna create a blue and then kind of a green and then a gold. So
And you're using a colorant that is specific for working with resin.
Yes, and this is actually, I'll show you, it's an opaque colorant. Our resin's getting a little bit thicker over here, but I think we can still work with it. And, but we're using such a small amount of the pigment that it becomes transparent. So again, just wiping up that excess so we don't make a mess. Now, the colorant, like I said, is opaque, technically, but it's a concentrate, so we're gonna use literally the tiniest bit on the end of a toothpick, like so. And I'm just gonna drop this in here and mix.
Oh, okay, so you're just going to turn it into a solid color.
Mm-hmm. And you can see that it starts to blend together. And to get the green, I'm gonna just mix a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the yellow. So I've got some over here. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how we create that wave look. I might need to mix this one a little bit more there. Okay, so I like to add just a few drops of each of the colors at the base of the bezel itself. So I'm gonna kind of just do it a little bit random here. And you can mix whatever colors. If you like purple and you wanna mix that in here, you can as well.
Okay.
And one pigment that I didn't show you was the powder pigment to get the gold, which I love to put a little sparkle into everything.
So of course you do.
A little bit of sparkle is always good. So I'm adding just a little bit of gold in there as well. We're just doing a few drops.
Okay.
Of each of these.
So this is a little bit of an experiment to figure out how to create this world that you love.
Yeah.
So maybe pay attention as people should pay attention as they're doing these droplets.
Yep.
If they want to make that same look again, it will be easier if it's the same.
But like in waves, they'll be a little different each time.
Which is perfect too.
Yeah. So I'm just adding little bits here and there, but keeping it down towards the bottom of the bezel. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start adding my clear. This has gotten really thick.
Is it workable? Do you know, is there a point where you have to?
There is a point where you can't work it. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and continue mixing this one here. And it's almost done. And we'll be able to use this instead. This will flow a little bit better. You do want it to flow, otherwise you're not gonna be able to get that swirl of the wave. So. Okay. This is almost done mixing, and you do need to be careful and watch your environment. So if it's too hot, it's gonna set up a little bit faster. Yep, as we've found out. And the same thing if it's too cold, it's not gonna work as well. So, okay, so once this is all set up, I actually like to use one of these empty cups. It's a little garbage cup. So that stir stick, I could definitely put some in there, but I'm not gonna have as much control. So I'm gonna use just a tinier stir stick to just add resin.
Okay.
A little bit at a time. And I'm gonna add the resin at the top of the bezel, so the opposite, hoping that it will start pushing that colored resin down further towards the bottom of the bezel.
Okay. And we didn't talk about it, but people can see we have really prepped the work surface here. We have a craft mat covered with paper, and that's covered with plastic so that we're protecting everything from getting stray drops.
Definitely, thanks for pointing that out. The plastic bags, you can just use, your standard plastic bags that you have in your kitchen, or even a garbage bag works to cover your whole work surface, and then that will protect your work surface. So once I've added the resin all the way up to the lip of the bezel here, I'm gonna again take a little toothpick, and see, this is when it comes in handy that I have it on a card. I can just hold on to it and just give it a couple swirls. You don't wanna swirl too much. You will get a big old tie-dye look. You just want a few little swirls. And
nice.
That's it.
Okay, let's move the card so that we can see the pattern a little bit better there.
Yeah.
There you go. Very oceany.
Yeah. And then you're gonna wanna let this set up for 24 to 48 hours to get a good solid cure. And I've got one over here already finished, so I'll show you what we can do next.
We can push this forward here.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, so here's one that I've let cure. You can see the wave pattern in there, and then it's on the tape. You're just gonna peel that tape off. And this one's actually coming off really well. But sometimes if you have a little bit of adhesive left over, you wanna just use a little adhesive remover.
Okay.
This one's nice because it's, you know, a small amount. You don't have to get a big bottle. Just rub it on. And then, again, using a little wipe off that extra adhesive. So then you get a really clear, transparent, beautiful
That is really
pendant.
beautiful. I love this idea.
Yeah.
So then when we're ready to assemble the necklace, it looks like you have a few different pieces and parts here.
So I've got a little sea life charm, a little
Nice.
seahorse. I've also got some chain. And I like this chain. It's the satellite chain, so it's got little beads on it, so it looks like I did a little bit more work than I actually did.
I like it for that reason too.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and first start by adding the clasp with some jump rings. So let me grab my chain nose pliers, and I've got 2 chain nose pliers. Take my jump ring, find the opening, and then with the second one, go ahead and just open it up side to side. Link that into one side of your chain.
Handy jump rings. Sometimes they're challenging to find the right ring for your chain.
It is.
And you found the perfect one.
This one fits almost perfectly snug. And then I'm gonna add my clasp on this side.
Okay.
Go ahead and close up my jump ring. I like to just wiggle it back and forth just to make sure that it's nice and tight and closed.
Okay, let's take a look at your finished necklaces. These are beautiful, different variations of the same technique.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you're welcome. And you can see here you use the same idea to use a jump ring to attach the clasp.
Yep. And then on the other side, another jump ring.
Right, and then you use a
Exactly.
jump ring to attach the charms at the front as well.
Yep.
Beautiful, and these
Exactly.
earrings are really pretty too.
Thank you. I like the tiny little bezels there. Those are great. They are a little harder to get that swirl pattern, so you want to make sure to not overdo it with the colored resin.
Well, this
Don't
is
add too much in there.
Okay, well this is a beautiful idea, and you could do this with any different bezel that you wanted to use.
Absolutely.
Right.
All different shapes.
Well, thank you so much, Lindsay.